Hey guys, Matt, Trend1143. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at this Pennsylvania GP-7 from Lionel. Like always in these videos, I try to give you guys a little bit of history on the real prototype engine, and this engine is no exception to that. So let's take a look at some of the history behind this engine, then we'll take a look at Lionel's model. Okay, so the GP-7 is a 4-axle road switcher engine. It was made by EMD between October 1949 and May of 1954. Of all of them, a total of 2,734 were made. 2,620 were made for American railroads, and that also included 5 GP-7Bs. Now, as you guys probably know, a B unit is an engine, but it does not have a cab. It's just the engine and the top and everything else. It's basically this without a cab. They had 5 of those made for the 18SF Railway, and then they had 112 built for Canadian railroads, and then 2 for Mexican railroads. Many railroads had the GP-7. The list is so long that I'm not even going to bother reading them to you because it would take a really long time. But what I'll do is I'll link the article that I got the history from, like I do with all the history articles I get. I'll link it in the description so you guys can see the owners, the quantity of engines, and the road numbers for them. So I'll link all that in the description, and you guys can take a look at that on your own time. So now let's take a look at Lionel's model. Okay, so now moving on to Lionel's model of this GP-7. The product number for this engine is 6-28587. And this engine was first made available in Lionel's 2008 Signature Edition catalog. They offered it with 2 other road numbers, including this one. They had the 8512, this one, and then they had a non-powered number 8511. And then they also offered this same engine, this one here, in the 2010 Signature Edition catalog, along with a Santa Fe version, which is pretty cool. Some of the features of this engine include that it has the legacy control system equipped with it, which is really nice. You can run off your legacy controller, the TMCC controller, the newer update to the TMCC, which is the Cab 1L, and if you have the proper equipment set up, you can also run it using MTH's DCS system. In addition, we also have legacy rail sounds, which is a really good sound package on this particular engine. It really sounds great. We have the Odyssey 2 speed control system. This engine really has good low speed, which is awesome. We have the quilling horn, which the quilling horn on this one's really good. We'll take a look at that in a couple of minutes. We have the speed steps, like on every legacy equipped engine. It has front and rear couplers, which is pretty cool. You can throw those off the remote. It has traction tires, fan driven smoke unit, adjustable output, whole bunch of lighting features including LED headlights, lit and marker lights, lighted number boards, lighted cab interior, and just overall amazing lighting package. And there is some cool things about the lighting package that I want to show you guys in a couple of minutes. 2 other quick little tidbits of information on this engine. Its length is 14¼ inches and its minimum curve is 0.31. So this GP-7 has a ton of great details and features on it. Let's take a look at some of the highlights, and then we'll take this engine for a spin around the layout. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the details on this engine. On the pilot here, we have these steps, which look really good. Moving up a little bit, we have these MU hose cables. We have a movable coupler cut bar. We have an operating electrocoupler, which can be thrown using any one of your Lionel remotes, like I described earlier. And then we have these steps, which do not have drainage holes in them for drainage, but they still look good either way. Moving up past the pilot, we have this handrail piece right here. Then we have these stanchions for the handrail, a silver safety chain, and then these movable drawbridges that come down like that. Moving up even more, we have these lighted number boards right here. We have these lit and marker lights, which I'll talk about in just a second. We have an operating headlight, and this will turn off if the engine is going in reverse. And I should mention now that this engine runs long hard forward, so this side that I'm reviewing right now is actually the front This side back here is the back. In addition to all the lighting features on this front here, we also have these ladder pieces. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the lighting features on this engine in detail. I'm going to go ahead and turn the track power on. Now one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the smoking light off. Okay. So, on the front of the engine right now, we have the number board lights that are lit. Those read 8510. Right here. We have the headlight right here. It is directional. And then we have these bicolor marker lights. Now, this is when the engine is in forward. If I change the direction on the engine, we see the marker lights change to red and the headlight goes out. And then let's take a look and see what it looks like on the back of the engine. Okay, so now with the engine in reverse, which would be running short hood forward, we have the green marker lights on, the number boards, those are always on, and then the rear headlight is illuminated. If I switch directions again, now we're back to normal. We have red on the back and then green on the front. And then finally the cab lights. The cab lights, when the engine is turned on and is sitting still, the cab lights will be on. When you move the engine, they will turn off. If you stop it, they'll turn back on. If I change direction and bring it back, you can see the cab light shuts off. Stop it, come back on, and then that's that. Moving past the lighting features on each end of the engine, we'll run down the side a little bit. We have these grates on the ends here. Now these are not see-through, but they really look good. We have the Pennsylvania name spelled out. We have these handrails. Down on the trucks we have these very nicely detailed four-wheel trucks. These look very, very nice. And then down here on the fuel tank we have some separately painted items, including the fuel gauge and the emergency switch. And then down here I want to talk about these pipes for just a second. Okay, in case you guys can't see this very well, I'll kind of tip the engine over. So here's the pipes right here. And you gotta kind of be careful with these when you run the thing, because sometimes if you handle it and you got your finger on the pipes, sometimes you'll pull them out because they just stick in here. They're just little pipes. I'll pull it out if I can so you guys can see it. And there goes one of the top roof hatches. There it is. And they're just kind of held in here by the fuel tank. So if they, in the event they come off, they just stick back in here. But just kind of handle them with caution when you're putting it back together. Moving towards the rear of the engine, we have these steps that lead up to the cab. And then on the cab here we have the 8510 road number, these molded in hatches on the side here. We have an EMD builder's plate. And then on top of the cab here we have these sunshades. Now these are made of metal, which is very good. Then we have these movable screens on the side here. And one thing to note is that since this engine runs long hood forward, and I did not mention it, but the F for front is right here on the engine. But anyway, the crew figures face the front of the engine, which is back towards the left of the screen. Moving back some more, we have the nicely done set of four-wheel trucks again, and then we have the same details as the front of the engine, same pilot detail, same handrail and stanchion work, and same drop plate. And then the lighting features again, directional. And if you go back just a couple of minutes in the video, you guys can see how the lights work, which is pretty cool. So moving up on the top here, we have the first set of radiator hatches. Now these are really, really cool, because all of these except for one of them, and I'll show you which one in a minute, all these pop off. Really cool feature. Now the one thing that is not in any of these hatches are the control switches. The control switches are underneath the cab here. You got the smoke, the run program, and then the Odyssey switch and the rail sense signal sense switch on the bottom. But everything else is up top. The volume control, the battery compartment, all that stuff. So let's take a look. So underneath this first hatch, this is on the front side of the engine, right near the F for front. Underneath this one, we have the motor and then the master volume control for the engine. And these you gotta kind of be careful. These little magnets that are in here, they fall off from time to time. I just actually glued this back on. And when I turn the engine over to show you guys the pipe work under here, this was the hatch that fell off. The next removable compartment is for the smoke unit. I'll get back to this in a couple of minutes. And then moving back a little bit more, we have the horn and then another set of radiator vents. Now this one, oddly enough, does not pop off. You know, I wish it would, because you could put the controls in here and then not have to turn the engine over, but oh well, they're Lionel. I'm sure there was a good reason for it. And then finally, this one here on the back comes off. Now this one's a little bit of a pain because the lift rings, I broke all mine off, so I just kind of have to get in there a little bit and wedge it open. But anyway, this one in here has the battery compartment and the motor, second motor, and then this one, as you guys can see, one of the magnets is off. But I don't put a battery in this engine because I didn't need it, so, and these are just held on, like I said, by magnets. So now let's take a look at the smoke unit one. Okay, so here's our smoke unit piece. So you're gonna pop this off. Now this is kind of weird to pop off. You kind of got to get your fingernail in between the seam of the piece and then it'll pop off. So here's our piece. You can see we got these smokestacks, and here's our piece. Now underneath here you can see it's kind of cruddy, just because the buildup of smoke fluid on this makes this thing kind of messy. So this here is the funnel piece. This is what allows this one smoke unit to pour smoke out of both stacks, which is pretty cool. And then now we have the smoke unit. Now this engine's really nice because with these pieces that pop off, you can get right into the smoke unit to smoke the engine, which is pretty cool. And of course, to load fluid down to this engine, you just pour your fluid directly down the stack, which is this gold cup piece. You just pour your fluid in, and then when you're done, you blow down the stack and watch it pour out. One quick little word of warning on this engine, and this does not apply for just this engine. It applies for any engine that the smoke unit turns on right as track power is applied. You really should have fluid in this before you even turn on the power. On this engine and my Pennsylvania Heritage SD70 ACE, when I was running the smoke unit on it, I don't know more, and if you want to know, watch my video on it, but I always smoke it before I even turn the power on. Sometimes I even smoke it while it's on the shelf. But anyway, the point is you need to have fluid in this thing. And another thing is that this gets extremely hot. You can tell this by two ways. The first way, if you touch this, it's really hot. And second of all, this funnel piece is actually in two little pieces. It's this piece here plus this top. And sometimes it'll come off its little tabs and come unglued. And sometimes it'll even take the gold ring with it. And that's just because it's so hot and this thing is just caked onto it. It can't, pull it off. So that's that. This little piece just kind of sits on there like that. And then this piece comes off and goes back on like that. Now another quick little thing is that the silver piece, that's the antenna for the legacy command system. So make sure that does not have smoke fluid on it. Otherwise the engine will not run at all with the legacy or TMCC command set. So kind of keep that in mind. So, but that's that. Just wanted to tell you guys those quick little pieces of information. And then this just pops on like that. Okay, so that about does it for the details on this engine. This engine's got some really good detail, and I think that it's really beautiful. So now we're not done yet. Now we got the fun part, which is running the engine. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so now that we've taken a look at the details on this GP-7, let's go ahead and power it up and run it. Okay, so before we get this engine turned on and running, just want to give you my favorite feature on this engine. I actually have two. My first favorite feature is the horn. It sounds really good. And my second favorite feature is that this engine, what I like about it is that it runs long-head forward. Now, in case you guys may not know what that means that this part of the engine here is the front, and then this part of the engine where the cab is, and this end here is the rear, and our little F is right here instead of being back here, because this engine runs long-head forward, which is pretty cool. Okay, so now we're going to use my legacy remote, and we're going to get this train fired up.
Pennsylvania, 8510, do you read me? Copy, 8510 here. Start her up and stand by. Copy, starting up the engine. Out.
Okay, so there's our startup. The smoke unit fan motor just kicked on as this engine fired up. So we may be able to see some smoke come out in just a minute. Sometimes these older ones take a couple minutes to start heating up, but it'll probably smoke while we're sitting here. Here's the horn. Here's the bell. That, of course, was the continuous ringing bell. You can do just a single hit bell if you want. Here's one of the really cool audio effects on this engine. As I'm sure a lot of you guys know, you have the labored engine sounds. To get to those, you use the speed menu, and then you use the EFX buttons, and then you'll get this really throaty, bassy sound out of the engine. It's really cool. Once I hit it, you'll see what I mean. Now, I don't know how well you guys can tell in the video, but the sounds just got a lot more bass than they really sound good. Here's the RPM level sounds. And lastly, before we go, here's some of the crew talk sounds. Now, I know some of you guys may not like the crew talk sounds, but just always keep in mind, these are optional. You do not have to use them. And if you like them like me, that's fantastic. Let's give a listen to some of them.
Pennsylvania, 8510, please hold. Over. Understood. Waiting for clear. 8510 out. Pennsy, 8510 here. Am I clear to make a move? Over. Negative 8510, please hold. Over. Copy that. Standing by. 8510 out. Pennsylvania, 8510, you may depart. Over. Thank you much. I've got green. 8510 out. Pennsy, 8510 here. Are we clear to pull? Over. Pennsylvania, 8510, you may depart. Over. Roger that. I've got green. 8510 out.
Okay, so let's get some cars behind this engine and get it going. Okay, so we're all set and ready to go. Now behind the engine, I've got an assorted mix of MTH Premier unibody tank cars. Now, since this is an older engine, there is no sequence control, so all the sounds you're going to be hearing, I'm going to be activating myself.
Pennsy, 8510, you may depart. Over.
Well, anyway guys, that about wraps it up for this review. This engine is absolutely amazing, and it is a fine performer and is a great addition to any Pennsylvania collection, including mine. If you're interested in purchasing one of these models, these engines retail for right around $450. Although if you go through a good Lionel dealer, you'll probably get a good discount off that price. It may be a little hard finding one of these models, but if you can find one, they're really good and you would not regret it. A quick dealer that I found, I was just searching through his stuff and I happened to find this engine, was Nicholas Smith Trains in Pennsylvania. He's got one, but I'm sure some other people do if you don't want to buy it from him. But this engine is very nice, and if you guys decide to get it, it's absolutely amazing. You would not regret it. So that will do it for me in this one. I'm Matt, train 943. You guys have a great one.